Welcome to SaintsCast, a football podcast brought to you by Southam United. Join us for an in-depth look into club, league, supporters, and everything you want to know on and off the pitch. We're getting the information straight from those who know it best. I'm Rian Tilley, and I'm here with Brandon Hallmark. And this week on the podcast, we're going to talk to the goalkeeper of Southam United. I'm actually going to hand it over to Brandon, and he's going to introduce our guest this week.
So yeah, as Rian said, on the show with us this week is Eddie Caviezel Cox, native of Switzerland, but also now lives in Leamington soon, I hear. He's the man that stands behind the back four. He screams and shouts at us, assaults the goalposts, and gives us all a really hard time. But he's a great bloke, and we're looking forward to hearing what he's got to say today. So welcome, Coxy.
Thank you. How are you both? All right?
Good, thank you.
Yeah, doing all right. How are you?
Good. Yeah, not too bad. Excited to be doing this. It's all very exciting, everything that's going on behind the scenes at the club at the moment. So thank you for having me and let me be a part of this.
No worries. Let's get to spilling the tea.
Let's do it. First, let's update everybody. How have you been getting on with lockdown and things being away from football at the moment?
Do you know what? I think lockdown, aside from obviously it being a bit rubbish without playing football, for me on a personal level, has actually been really, really useful. And I can't sort of hide away from that fact. I think Brandon sort of alluded to it. My girlfriend and I were lucky enough to sort of save up enough to put a deposit down on a house. So that's pretty much what lockdown's been. I'm lucky enough to still have a job, still be healthy and happy. So I suppose that's all we can really be grateful for at the moment.
Yeah, nice. Absolutely. A little time away is sometimes useful, I think. So that's good.
Massively, and it's you know, at the time of recording, we're a day away from being able to play football again. So I'm not going to lie, I feel like a kid on Christmas Eve. Really, really excited to get back tomorrow and finally play again.
Yeah, I was going to ask you too about that. That's got to be, I know that you've got a little bit of time away yet, but that's got to be a pretty good feeling knowing that like you're here now, that it's not such a up in the air situation anymore. You know, you're getting back to it tomorrow.
It's been a long time coming. A very long time.
It's nice to have that closure though, isn't it, Coxy? We know that, you know, tomorrow football's back and we don't have to wait on the decision of anybody. And actually people can just start cracking on and we can get stuck in.
Yeah. No, straight back to it. Hopefully everyone's kept fit because otherwise there'll be a few sore hammies.
I think there'll be some people getting found out on Saturday.
I just stand there, so I'm all right.
All right. Well, let's kind of get into the football side of things. So I know we've had a little bit of a conversation before this, and I find this very interesting. But you started out as a rugby player. You played, it sounds like, a lot of different sports. But what was the transition like between rugby and football? How'd you get involved in football from playing rugby?
So as a kid, all sort of my parents encouraged me to get involved as much as possible. So pretty much Thursday through to Sunday, every night and every morning, we were busy doing something, whether that be rugby, cricket, like the local youth club in my village, just everything really. And then one Sunday, up at the rugby club when I was about 7 or 8, one of the guys' parents just said, "Do you fancy coming and playing football for us over in the village near where I live?" And the rest is history. So I did that when I was about 8, 9, and then sort of gave up the other sports pretty fairly quickly after that, really.
That's cool, man. So did they kind of clock that you would be good with your hands and put you in goal straight away? Or did you kind of, because your distribution with your feet is very good, did you play outfield to start with?
They probably just realised that I was never, hard enough to be a rugby player. I'm too much of a wuss to play rugby. So
too soft.
Get me over to football straight away.
Where did they put you on the rugby pitch? Were you on the wing?
Yeah, I was out on the wing, nice. Away from all the action, which was nice.
Did you prefer that position when you got into it? I mean, did you always kind of want to be there as a goalkeeper then?
No, so I actually started out as a striker in my local village club, and then how I got into goalkeeping was just to kick around with my brother in my nan's garden. Basically, we just sort of swapped positions, and he could welly it really hard, and I sort of just. I mean, I didn't stop anything, but I quite enjoyed just throwing myself about and getting really muddy. And then as of that day, I asked my coach whether I could go play in goal, and they said yes, and the rest is history. I think not many people volunteer to be goalkeepers, so they jumped it, really.
Yeah. So as a junior player, you're involved in a lot of, a few different clubs, Deddington, Coventry City, Birmingham City, Northampton, just to name a couple of them. What was that experience like as a junior player?
Yeah, so I think when I first started playing football, I was lucky enough to, as you say, play for a lot of different clubs. So the sort of first sort of 3-4 years of playing football, from about 8 to about 12, I played for Deddington. Then I went to Birmingham, which was a really sort of good academy setup. Got released from there because it wasn't sort of good enough at the time, really. Then I went to Coventry, and again didn't quite cut the mustard there, and then dropped down in terms of like academy levels, but was lucky enough to play most of my sort of junior football at Northampton, which was a really good centre of excellence. And it was nice that I was able to sort of train there twice a week and get shipped around the country by my parents.
So, unlike we know, football's a very cutthroat business. What were the reasons? Did they ever actually sit you down and say, "Look, this is why we've released you," and give you some really honest, helpful feedback, or was it very much, "See you later, you're not part of this squad anymore"? Was there any kind of aftercare with that?
Yeah, definitely. So Northampton were really, really good with me. Because I got cut off at 16, so I was lucky enough not to actually go into the full time sort of side of it when 17 and 18, and a lot of lads do go in 17, 18 full time,
Yeah,
and then get cut. And from what I hear, that sounds like dreadful. I was never big enough.
yeah. In terms of your height,
I like to use it as an excuse. I was never going to be good enough, so I think I was lucky enough to get released at that age, and then be able to go and do a really good education elsewhere, and still play football and enjoy it. Because I think if a lot of lads were hanging on to that dream kind of thing, and if I'd have hung on to that dream, I think it would have been a lot more damaging for me. I still enjoy football and I still have a good time.
quality. And you talk about your education. You went to a proper sports college, didn't you? Where was that?
I went to Hartpury College down in Gloucester. So I think anyone that's sort of been there will tell you it's as good as like a sort of professional setup. There's a lot of investment and money that goes into it. And as what was quite a bang average footballer, I was extremely lucky to be exposed to that.
You talk very modestly, Coxy. You're like easily the best keeper in the league, if not the leagues above. So, but I think Hartpury has got a massive kind of reputation, hasn't it? Almost like Loughborough Uni for having an excellent facilities and producing really good, high quality athletes. So that's obviously stood you in some good stead for your football career. It's excellent.
Yeah, I was lucky enough to go to them both, really. And I think the key thing is that whilst I was there, obviously I put all my time and effort into the football side of things. So going to the gyms that were brilliant, doing all the coaching, the S&C, getting all the massages and everything, basically making use of what was there. But in the meanwhile, I was really lucky to get a really good education and come out the other side of it with, good A levels and a good degree. So best of both worlds, really.
Yeah, that sounds great. After you kind of played for those teams, you were looking for a senior team to play for. You played for a couple of teams. I'll let you go into that a little bit, the teams that you did play for. But what were the motivations behind those moves? I know that sometimes it's not up to you, but sometimes it is. What were the reasons behind those moves, and kind of how did those develop you into the player that you are?
So the first sort of exposure I had of men's football, I was really, really lucky to be at quite a high level of non-league, and I wasn't playing, but just to get exposure to the level was really good. So I was with Leamington at the sort of top end of the Southam Prem. They're now the Conference North, so they play against a lot of sort of full-time teams. And just that year there was really good to get in and around what is a completely different environment in men's football. Everything sort of means a lot more. There's a lot of people that come and watch and really care about it. So, I was lucky enough not to play there because I think I would have been absolutely sort of bullied and probably killed off kind of thing. So what they did is they sent me out to Racing Club Warwick, which is a really good local club, who are doing really well in non-league now, I think. And that was my first proper season of playing men's football in the Midland League, which is, Brandon will tell you it's a difficult league. It's just full of really good players and some really, really big, strong players. So it was a bit of a baptism of fire for me. And then got a little bit sort of political towards the back end of the season with the manager being sacked, and there was a few changes at the club, and this sort of coincided with me moving up to Loughborough. So what I did then was go play more locally to uni. So I went and played for Aylstone Park in Leicester, which was in the East Midlands League, which again was a really, really good league, and had a really good year there. I was lucky enough just to play every single game and not have the worry of, I say not have the worry, not really have to care about
The less
competition.
pressure, we get
Yeah, less pressure, and I could just turn up and enjoy football. And I properly sort of started to fall back in love with football again when I was there.
And that balance is really important, isn't it? So yes, you've got the competition, you've got the professionalism, but actually if you're not enjoying it, those 3 points mean absolutely nothing to you. And I think that baptism of fire that you talk about, that exposure, that's a really good blend with the fact that you joined a team that you enjoyed and ultimately kept your love for the game. So that's really nice.
Yeah, and I think I'm sort of in the same boat now with Southam. Is that when I left Aylstone, I moved back home and I went and played for Brackley Saints, and I had a really, really good time there. But I just didn't sort of cut the mustard, and I was ending up sitting on the bench every week. So I went out on a loan, just to go and help out various teams. So teams like GMP, Rugby Borough, but just for a game here and there. And when really,
well, you deserve
every
better than
Monday,
that. You need
continuity.
continuity.
I think
you need a home.
Everyone deserves to sort of play every week.
Yeah, of course.
But you're waking up on a Monday with not really looking forward to the Saturday, because you're just going to sit there, and at the end of the day, no matter what level of football you're playing, you just want to play.
Correct, and that fits in nicely to what I said in my podcast last week about actually Southam's become a bit of almost like a get out and a rescue for a lot of us. Like we were a bit like stray dogs, weren't we? And Southam came along as our proverbial dog's trust and gave us a club to play for, and actually an excellent facility and a good league to come and almost have a bit of a rebirth, a renaissance of football, and that's been really nice for us all, don't you think?
Massively, yeah. I think that was the sort of main pull of Southam, aside from the facilities and aside from everything that's been going on to get the club going. Just the fact that every Tuesday and Saturday you can come and play football with what has luckily been a really good group of lads and a really good group of mates for the last 2-3 years. So yeah, definitely.
Couldn't agree more, mate. Couldn't agree more. Nice.
You kind of alluded to this a little bit, and I find it very interesting, the fact that there is a little bit of favoritism, and that's something that you sort of experienced. And I think it's quite a interesting and unique thing to goalkeepers, isn't it? That you're obviously training together as goalkeepers, but only one of you is going to start each weekend or whenever it is you're playing. Is that, and I know that there's probably part of that you have to be careful because you obviously want to be playing, and you said that, you both said that it's, it's hard to wake up and get the joy out of it if you're not playing. It obviously you want to be doing that, but what's that kind of balance like of, there's only one of you is going to start. How do you not rock the boat? How do you not disrupt a team environment?
It's a really weird thing, because in theory, the person you're training with, who's probably starting ahead of you, you should absolutely sort of hate their guts because they've got everything that you haven't got. But there's a thing called, and you've probably heard it loads, and whatever level of football you're at, everyone knows about this goalkeepers union. You're just mates with them because they're playing the same position as you. And as much as you want to be playing with them, you know exactly what they're going through, because it can be very lonely. It can be very daunting. And I think if you're mature enough to put everything aside, at the end of the day, if you're training well and pushing the starting goalkeeper hard, that's only going to benefit the club that you are actually playing for. So just sort of got to sacrifice yourself for the bigger picture, really. But yeah, it is difficult. I can't lie. There's always a little part of you that wants to sort of slip up, kind of thing, just so you can get your opportunity.
You're quite fortunate, aren't you, at Southam, though, that you are a bit of a lone wolf when it comes to being in the sticks. There's no one really fighting for you. We haven't really got a second keeper anymore, have we? I know we had young Alex at the start of last season, but obviously it's just you now. Do you find that you've ever got complacent, that there's no one chasing your shirt, or do you just always try and play your best anyway?
I think for me, I just relax a little bit more, because I think we're at a level where you play better football when you're enjoying it and have a smile on your face. And I completely appreciate that competition does usually get the best out of people. But for me, I sort of would rather just know that I've got the backing of everyone around me, so I can go out and do what I want to do and go out and play how I want to play, because that's for me when I play a little bit better, I think. I've been in clubs where I've been the number one goalkeeper, and we've had a number two. and you just always a little bit too nervous to, take that extra risk or, play that short pass or that sort of thing, or come for that cross kind of thing. And it puts me on edge a little bit. But I know in other ways, for other goalkeepers as well, competition helps massively.
I've witnessed firsthand that you definitely play better when you drop your shoulders and you're relaxed and you give yourself a yard and you chill out. So that's interesting to hear. That's probably the reason behind that.
Yeah.
There seems to be kind of you guys talked about this actually earlier, but there seems to be kind of a stature thing when it comes to goalkeeping. You talked about your height or things like that. It must be interesting for young players growing up, knowing that they're a good goalkeeper. And I know we kind of, in our emails back and forth, you mentioned some of this, but knowing you're a good goalkeeper, but you're probably never going to be the same physical size as those who are excelling in the position. Is that something you kind of realize as a younger player growing up? Or do you think it's just, you're told it by coaches or you just kind of come to realize it as you grow older?
It must be frustrating because it's something that's completely out of your control.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, cheers, mum. Cheers, dad. It's something that you're fully aware of, and especially over the last sort of 10 years, it's become more and more apparent. I think everyone's heard stories of lads who go to academies now and they get all their measurements and stuff tested, and if they're not going to be over sort of 6 foot by the time they're 16, then they get released. Now, I don't know how true it is, but it genuinely does seem that cutthroat. You won't see a goalkeeper in an academy sort of up to under 18s that is under 6 foot now. And you certainly won't see
taller than that, Coxy, wouldn't you? I'd say yes, if you look at the Premier League, other than your Jordan Pickford, is a bit of an anomaly. We're talking 6'3", 6'4".
Yeah.
And which means even I would be too short at 6'2". So I feel for you, really.
Guy, yeah, it's weird, but I mean, it's one of those things when you're young, you always just think, not me, it won't apply to me, or I'll grow, I'll be fine, and then you don't. And I was sort of this height when I was about 16, 17, so I haven't grown.
Yeah, because it must be difficult, right? Because the first time I saw Southam play, I think we discussed this. Mm-hmm. I said, and I'm always very interested in goalkeepers because that's one of the reasons I started watching football. But I could tell right away that you're a fantastic goalkeeper, and I said this to you, and we kind of had that discussion. But kind of what you're saying is you almost weren't given a chance because of the height, but you're very obviously a very good goalkeeper.
Well, let's get it right. You're not a complete dwarf. You're
no, absolutely not.
Just for listeners that don't know you, Coxy, you've got to be what, 5'10", 5'9"?
5'9". I'll take 5'10".
Take the half inch for the studs, yeah.
Yeah, definitely not short by any means, but from when you look at goalkeepers, like you were saying, they are very, very tall, and that's just part of it, isn't it?
Yeah. And I think there's so many people that want to be footballers and so many people that want to be goalkeepers nowadays that really clubs and academies have got the pick of the bunch.
Mm-hmm. So that's filter one, isn't it? Filter one is height, and then you sieve out the shorties like you.
Exactly, yeah. They've got that luxury now.
I'm joking,
really,
but I mean, any scout would only have to watch you play to see how agile you are and how quickly you get across the goal. Because I think sometimes it's a bit of a catch-22, isn't it? When you're 6'4", naturally you're not as agile as someone that is 5'9", and that can almost be more beneficial. And that's, I think, why we noticed during games you're very, very good when strikers are in the 6-yard box, 18-yard box when it comes to your reaction saves. And I don't think a 6'3", 6'4" striker's making those saves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Right.
I don't know whether I think a lot of goalkeeper coaches would say the same thing. I mean, obviously, I can't speak for every goalkeeper coach, but I'm sure a lot of goalkeeper coaches would want to coach a shorter goalkeeper, probably because you can get more out of them in terms of development points. You're right, I mean, obviously, there's a lot of brilliant tall goalkeepers, and they're the ones that are pro, and I'm the one that's not. But you're right in the sense that sometimes they aren't as quick or they aren't as agile. But it's just a part of football, really, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So that's kind of some of the difficulties, obviously, that you've come across in your career so far. But kind of move on to some of the successes. You played for a lot of academies, and you said you played alongside some successful players who've gone on to be successful. What's that like? Like, what's that experience like, seeing them kind of excelling on almost kind of the world stage, some of these, right?
Do we need to give the listeners a kind of name drop alert here?
I played against Rashford.
As if?
We lost like 16-0, I think.
Stop.
Playing against Man U, yeah.
That's
I was
so
in goal.
cool. That's so cool.
But I think at the time you just sort of appreciate them, even though they're like you sort of 14, 15, you just look at these kids and you think, like, you're good. You're going to do something.
He's got a bit.
Yeah, he's got a bit. I was lucky enough to play with a lad who's now playing for Copenhagen. And you just appreciate them. You just sort of look at them and think you can do so much. So it's really, really cool to have done that. It's something that I definitely am really grateful for, growing up, playing with some really good players and playing at some really cool places as well. I was lucky enough to play for academies, and that took you to some really wicked places, like places that a lot of people haven't got to go, and I'm really grateful for that.
And it teaches you things outside of football as well, doesn't it? It teaches you how to meet people that are in positions of power and how to hold conversations with professional people. And I think that's probably stood you in a very good position when it comes to your current professional life, how you communicate with people. And I think that actually there is more to academy football than football, and it teaches you really, really important life skills. And that's something that I try and talk to my students at school about. So it'd be interesting to hear if you think that your time at the academy has actually helped you in your life outside of football as well, even though that's no longer a part of your life.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know whether, because obviously I got released at quite a young age relatively. I don't know whether
a very important age in terms of your maturity as a man, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the sort of years 16 to 17, so when I went down to college at Hartpury, and then obviously when I went on to Loughborough, having that balance of being really driven and being involved in football, because football does develop your social skills a lot.
100%.
I was lucky enough to be able to combine the both with the education, which you're right, does benefit me massively in my professional life now.
Mm-hmm. Nice. So, like, if we come away from that then, and we talk about you as a goalkeeper in the sticks, do you think it takes like a certain characteristic within someone to be a goalkeeper?
You've got to be weird.
You've got to be a bit of a psychopath, haven't you?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, you've got to be weird. There's got to be something not quite right in every goalkeeper, whether it's just on the pitch that they get really weird or often on the pitch that they get really weird. There's no goalkeeper that's just normal. I'd like to think that I'm quite calm and relaxed off the pitch, but then I get on a pitch and I don't like myself really. look at myself.
Man possessed.
Yeah, it is. There's, I think the famous saying is you've got to be mad to be a goalkeeper. I couldn't agree more, really. You've got to have a screw loose. I don't know whether it actually affects the way you play, but it just seems to be odd. Probably because you stood there on your own the whole time.
Yeah, I was going to ask, are you crazy, a little bit crazy, and that's why you become a goalkeeper? Or is it what, like, the training you go through and kind of the experiences you have as a goalkeeper that kind of turn you a little bit odd?
I don't know. It's a really good question. I've never really thought about
to contextualise that though, Cox, like we're talking, it's winter, middle of February, and it's snowing, and you're stood there in shorts and t-shirt. Yeah. I reckon that's made you into like a hardened SAS type footballer nut job.
I don't know if I'm ever going to be as fit or as strong as an SAS person, but I think you definitely, it's definitely odd to convince yourself that you're enjoying it. I think we've been involved in a game like away on a Tuesday night, and we've won about 7 or 8-0, and it's been chucking it down with rain, and I haven't touched the ball yet for some reason. I'm having the time of my life. I don't
there's
think
some psychological trauma going on there.
Exactly.
I feel sorry for your poor mum as well. You must have been through boxes and boxes of Persil washing your shorts, rolling around the mud in the middle of the
Yeah.
No, I know. You do get really filthy. Yeah.
But you're actually fortunate, aren't you, to be the only sponsored athlete at Southam. So you actually get free gloves, which is very much to the envy of the other players. So talk to us about your little glove sponsor.
I suppose first of all, shout out Pulse GK. Thanks for the gloves; they're wicked. The club. One of the really cool things about the club is that they had a link with an independent goalkeeper glove company. And to be fair, a lot of clubs do this now. And Southam's no different in that what they do is they just buy all their goalkeepers' gloves. I think because you go through so many in a season, especially when we trained on that AstroTurf, you're going through sort of 6-7 pairs a season, and they can get quite expensive. So it's
because you've got that to buy and boots.
Yeah, I can't afford to keep getting gloves and boots all season. So yeah, I'm glad that Southam have done that for me, and it's something I'm very, very grateful for, definitely.
What are the best parts of being a goalkeeper compared to outfield positions? Like, are you the one on the pitch probably having the most fun?
I don't know if I speak for every goalkeeper here. There's obviously the opportunity to be a hero, which we had a penalty shootout and won it, and that was really good fun. And you do feel like you've done something for the team, and that's really positive. There's also games where you get absolutely battered, but you might nick a 1-0, and you would not have won that game if you didn't play so well. So they're sort of two quite cool things. Um, I think for me, one of the nicest things that's sort of come over the last couple of years is just being reassuring for the people in front of you. Um, I don't know if that speaks for every goalkeeper, because I'm sure a lot of goalkeepers do like the glory because it doesn't come around so often. But I just quite enjoy going out on a Saturday or a Tuesday and knowing that the people in front of me can play how they want to play because they're so relaxed, because they know that they're okay behind them. I don't know if that sort of comes across quite arrogant,
No,
but
I can vouch for that. I've obviously played directly in front of you, and I feel like we can. Ultimately, the whole way that your team can, and we saw this with England the other night. If you have a goalie that's good with the ball at their feet, it changes the entire shape of the football team. So because you're good with your feet, me and the other lads in the back four are able to be 20 yards, 25 yards further at the pitch, because we know we haven't got to cover 25 yards of space behind us. So we saw that with England, didn't we, against Albania, with Nick Pope in goal, who is not naturally as good with his feet as Pickford. And you actually saw the whole back four drop almost onto the edge of their own 18-yard box. And because you're capable of using your feet, it changes our whole footballing dynamic. So keep up with the footwork.
yeah, it's a weird one actually. It's quite a good point. Like you're right, the modern game, especially if you look at the top level goalkeepers now, they are evolving. So Nick Pope, I reckon, if he came through 10, 15 years ago, probably would have been arguably one of the best keepers England's ever had, because he's massive. He can stop shots for fun. He comes out for every cross. And 10, 15 years ago, that is what you needed to do and only needed to do. And I still think it's the primary focus of a goalkeeper to stop the ball going in the net.
Absolutely.
But obviously, there's a lot more to do with playing out now, which is arguably why he probably won't start at the Euros, I don't think.
Is it a difficult position to grow at this level? Like what's the training process for you like? Do you feel that you get the coaching, the attention that you need to be able to grow?
Yeah, it depends on the club, really. Depends on the club, and I was lucky enough to have Christoph, who was a brilliant coach. And I'm really looking forward to meeting Matt Jones tomorrow. So hopefully, our relationship can be really good, and we can work really hard together. I think the biggest education in football for a goalkeeper is playing every week, because non-league football is so different to any other football, especially junior football. Junior football, it's very unphysical. There's a lot of technically gifted players that play the ball on the floor, and even at sort of quite a low level, it's not very physical. And that goes all the way up to the top level. But when you hit non-league, everything changes. I remember my first game for Warwick. We played in the heart of the Black Country, and within about 30 seconds, I was on my arse, completely wiped out, got completely nailed, and the bloke looked at me and obviously saw that I was a kid. Just said, "Welcome to men's football," and it's just so much more physical, and you've got to cope with so many different kinds of players and styles of play as well. Like Brandon will say, in non-league, you tend to deal with a lot more sort of direct players, and it is an education. So playing every week is probably a lot more useful for your development than training, I would argue.
And you can really see, can't you? You can see the players that have played non-league for a while compared to the ones that have recently come up from you, purely because of the stature more than anything. They're not scared of a challenge or a header or sticking their face in front of something, because actually, welcome to the christening of non-league football. Here you are.
And when you also turn up beforehand and everyone's in their tracksuits and on checking out the pitch, the people that you don't want to play against are the ones that do not look like they should be near a football pitch. Like the people that just don't look like footballers at all, because they've probably been around for sort of 10, 15 years.
Dangerous.
Remember we played against Tame, and they had that little short chubby bloke who was just unbelievable.
His touch was immaculate. Yeah, it's near hit the crossbar from the halfway line, didn't he?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And they're the ones that catch you out. They're the ones that the ball absolutely just sticks to like glue, because they've played football for 37 years and just absolutely have been let down by Carling.
Yeah, exactly.
When it comes to goalkeeping, obviously you deal with the goals and the gaffes and all those things. Both are kind of always under the microscope. Does it add a lot of pressure? And how do you personally deal with that?
Yeah, anyone that's ever played in goal would lie if they say they don't get nervous about making mistakes or don't have that slight bit of angst about making a mistake, because ultimately it lets down the 10 people in front of you, the 10 people that have turned up to play with you and the 10 people that are going to turn up to play with you every week, kind of thing. So yes, making a mistake usually leads to a goal, and that is massive pressure. I think most coaches and most goalkeepers try to alleviate that by just the plain and simple fact that it's got to go past 10 other people before it gets to us.
Yeah.
Which technically would make our job redundant on the pitch, but it's something that we like to think about when we do make a mistake, is that, you know, it's got to go past other people.
Yeah,
I think
that's a nice comforting barrier to have, isn't it? You know,
even
if you've shanked one yourself into the back of the net, you could have blamed it on any of us for not doing something in between, them and us.
There's games that Brandon and I have played in where I've been at fault for goals, and I have just absolutely hammered people in front of me for no reason whatsoever.
End of that a few times, mate.
Yeah, just call them every name under the sun and blame them for absolutely nothing.
A certain Headington Amateurs game comes to mind, but we won't talk about that because
no,
we fell out a little bit. But
So on the flip side of that, what's kind of your best goalkeeping moment?
Oh, that's a good question.
It's a great question.
There's not many of them, that's why.
I could tell you. I've got one in mind, Coxy, if you're struggling.
I think one of them was when I was playing for Warwick at Bromsgrove away. Bromsgrove were a really big club for the league that we were in, and I think one or two of their lads have gone on to play really, really high, and they've got a really big following because they used to be a huge club, and they're on their way back up. And we drew 1-1 with them. I think we had one shot, and we got battered, and their big sort of shed, it was a New Year's Eve, were calling me every name under the sun. I was only sort of 18, 19, and I made about 10 saves in about 5 minutes.
Unreal.
And then at the end just turned around and put my arms to the crowd and got like sweets, coins thrown at you. It was just like the best feeling ever. But yeah, I think that one sticks to my mind.
Yeah. The best game I've seen you have is obviously the cup final where we had the penalty shootout, and you saved, I think, 3 out of 5 penalties to make sure we won, and that was a great
It's funny
effort.
as well because I've never, do you remember, I hadn't actually saved penalties for Southam before this season, and then I think I've saved like 5 or 6 now. But yeah,
that's kind of a good segue into something that I'm very interested in. I know a lot of people are interested in, is the idea of penalties, because it's such a, it's kind of one of those things that you never, like if you're watching a team that you support, you never want it to come down to penalties or, or a penalty in the run of play or anything like that.
It's pure psychological warfare, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Who is the penalty worse for, the keeper or the taker?
You'd be lying if it got to like the 4th or 5th penalty and you hadn't saved one, and you just thought that, at some point I've got to save one here. Everyone's always going to say the pressure's completely off the keeper, and it is to some extent, but I think internally you do expect yourself to at least save 1 or 2 in a penalty shootout.
I think a lot of outfield players would try and argue with you and say that everyone always says that a keeper should never save a penalty. There's no expectation because anyone that's played any level of football should be able to score from 9 yards. Is it 9 or 12 yards? But I don't even know. 12 yards, yeah. So that's it. that must be comforting, knowing that actually no one's going to be fuming with you if you haven't saved any, because the expectation is so low, regardless of your capabilities.
I agree with that. It is comforting, but I think when it gets to penalty shootout, you just want to save a penalty so much that it is a bit weird, considering that I can't. Well, apart from this season, I could never have saved penalties before.
How do you gain that advantage? Do you think, like, how do you kind of get in their head when they're taking that free shot at you from 12 yards?
I think the one thing that's worked for me really well is that I have just picked a side and gone with it. And I know it's the most basic thing ever, but even when they're walking up, you just pick a side and you go with it, because for years and years, I'd changed my mind. I tried to read their body language, or I'd looked at highlights or been told about where they usually go, kind of thing. And I just now started to ignore that. So as soon as they walk up, just tell yourself a side that you're going to dive, and you dive that side.
Well, ultimately, that hesitancy can be the difference between you putting your full force into diving away, can't it? You see it a lot in football where a keeper's unsure and basically just ends up falling backwards because they've gone neither way, and ultimately, strikers are trying to put them in the corner, aren't they? So you need every ounce of power you've got.
Yeah, and I think you're right in that. I know a lot of goalkeepers do have like mind or psych techniques, and Tim Krul, for example, who plays for Norwich, is known to be really good. Yeah, he's really good at penalties because they just go and get in the striker's mind. I think some goalkeepers as well try to like scuff the penalty spot.
Yeah, I've seen
as well. But yeah, I'd just pick a side really and go with it.
Nice, I like it. You're not a Jersey dude that jumps up and punches the crossbar and makes the
does
goal
all of that
wobble.
stuff. Yeah, waving all over. Yeah.
All right, we'll move on to Southam. How did you get involved with Southam? Kind of what was that process like, and how was the process of moving to Southam kind of similar and different from?
Yeah, so I was at Brackley Saints, and for whatever reason, I just wasn't really cutting the mustard. I wasn't playing every week, and one of the coaches from Brackley was going to go over to Southam. I didn't know that at the time, so I'd left Brackley to go and play in the Midlands League again for a club called Littleton. And then I got a text off this coach who listed 5 or 6 players from Brackley Saints who were going to go over to Southam. He said, "Do you want to be a part of it?" He said, "If you want to be a part of it, we can guarantee that you'll be the number one and you'll play every week. We have got another goalkeeper here, but we'd like him to sort of coach. Come and look at the facilities. We're doing open training sessions every week and get involved."
Was that Mr. Kev Squirrel?
That was Mr. Kev Squirrel. Big up Kev Squirrel.
What a bloke.
I hope you're listening. One of my favourite blokes in football. He's an absolute star. But yeah, it was really sort of simple, just a text, and I had nothing better. I had either the option of staying and plugging around the Midlands League and the Hellenic Div 1, not really making an impact, not really settling down, or I had an opportunity, like Brandon said in his podcast last week, to sort of start again and play every week and, settle down with a good group of lads and sort of progress. And when you look at the facilities and you look at the way the club should be, you really do want to be a part of taking it forward.
And there is a mood, isn't there, that there absolutely is that intention of climbing that ladder. And I think everyone sensed that, didn't they, when we turned up at the first training session and we viewed the ground and we met people, that there was a lot of drive and a mood around the place that actually everybody that was involved wanted to progress. And that got me hooked. Did you think the same?
Yeah, and I think it's kept you hooked as well, is that we, relative to the level that we're at, we've suffered quite a big injustice.
Yeah.
Because I think the jump, not necessarily in standard, but the jump between just facilities, grounds, like Saturdays, the whole experience from the level we're at now to the level that we should be in is huge. It's a proper sort of step into non-league, which we're all really, really desperate to get.
Yeah. And I think we will.
Fingers crossed.
You started out with an injury when you came to Southam. You were out for 3 months, was it? What was that like?
That was awful.
You were still the quickest player at Southam.
Yeah, because I did it in the middle of pre-season. I'd literally got back from a minor shoulder injury, played, tore my groin, and it was a week before the season was due to start. And obviously at that time, Christoph is a very, very good goalkeeper, very capable of playing at a very high standard. And I just didn't want to not play. So stupidly, I played for 3 or 4 weeks. In fact, my injury probably cost us our only league defeat that we've actually ever had. I was awful against Easington.
We don't talk about that game.
No,
we don't talk about it.
It probably cost us 2 or 3 goals and we lost 3.
I'd agree. I think it was entirely your fault. No, man, it's a team effort. We win together, we lose together, and that's always been the message. Unless it's you that makes the error, in which case, let's play.
No, I agree. It was stupid for me to play. I just wanted to keep playing because I didn't want to lose my spot. And then a week later, I just said, well, I went to a physio and she said, look, either you stop playing or you just tear your groin more and more and more and risk being out for longer and longer. So, I was out for sort of 3 months with that, and it was really, really boring.
Yeah, I know the feeling at the minute.
So boring.
What do you think, mate? What do you think the opportunities that Southam have that you think other teams in the Hellenic don't have? So what do we as a club offer to our players that we don't think is on offer to other clubs in our division?
Massive budget. No, I'm joking.
Oh yeah, we're all loaded.
Yeah, I was going to say cash falling out of everywhere. No, I think the first thing is the facilities.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, you've gone to some of the places at the Hellenic, and they
Horrific.
are, yeah, horrific's a nice way of putting it. And I love the Hellenic, but some of the grounds really shouldn't have football played.
I just don't think you should ever play football within 15 yards of someone that's on a swing.
And we've done it 5 or 6 times. So yeah, I think first of all the ground. I'd like to think the atmosphere in that it's not a club where you turn up and play every week and just go through the motions. When Brandon will tell you this, when we're up against it in a game, it's one of the worst places to be. But I think that's a positive because everyone really wants to win and really wants to drive forward, and we take every goal that goes in against us so personally.
Yeah, and we demand a lot of ourselves, don't we? We're a very self-demanding team.
Yeah, and to be honest, at some points that could be our downfall, is that I don't think many teams in our league do beat us. We tend to beat ourselves when we lose because we're just lunatic.
I think that comes with being a very young side, mate. I think people forget that I think our average age is about 22, maybe 21, which is so young for... I know we play in step 7, so it's not a high... Let's get it right. It's not a massive standard, but it's still a big jump, isn't it, from youth football to knowing how to grind a result out, how to look after the ball for the last 10 when you're only 1-0 up. That's something that you don't learn until men's football, is it? You're not taught that when you're 17. It's all about let's keep the ball on the floor and do loads of nice movements and make football really pretty. No one really learns those fine arts of the game that do go unnoticed and actually teach you how to win games of football as opposed to playing attractive football.
Yeah, completely agree. I think you hit the nail on the head there, yeah, definitely.
I think that's something we could definitely improve. I think that's something that Rich wants us to look at in the new season as well.
You'd like to think that after sort of 2 years together now, maybe that will start to creep in a little bit more. But I think even if you look at half our team, they're still the right side of 20. It's ridiculous. We're still so young. And I suppose that's quite exciting.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. What's kind of the feeling at the club as far as, and I'm going to say changing room this week because I was told that locker room is not the right term. That's a very American term, so I'll say changing room. What's kind of that feeling in the changing room right now? You do have a lot of young players, and it's got to be exciting knowing that the last 2 seasons you've done very well, albeit maybe don't have as much to show for it as you would have liked because of the curtailing of the seasons and everything. But what's that feeling like?
It's difficult to say at the moment because we start again tomorrow. But when we left it last time, it was just a feeling of almost bitterness at the situation. I think we're quite sour at the fact that we are where we are, and I think it's sort of fair enough. Can't lie, the change room can be a really, really fun place to be. But I think the overall sort of mood when we turn up to football is that we just want to win more than anything else. Really.
And the expectation is very much that we're going to win, isn't it? Without us, I don't think we're a cocky side. I genuinely don't.
Is that putting pressure on? Or do you think it's... Because we discussed this last week, you know...
You get a target on your back, don't you, Cop?
Sorry?
You get a target on your back, don't you? When you're winning week in, week out, people come to Southam to beat us.
Yeah, I think the last season, we were definitely... I mean, we only sort of played three league games and a couple of cup games, but we were really guilty of it last year. The first season, I think, I found some results the other day and we won in January. I think we scored like 54 goals and conceded twice. And this season it's been completely different. Obviously it was a shortened season. And
people know us now.
Yeah, exactly. People know the way you play. People come not to lose. And I think after about 20, 25 minutes when we're not 1 or 2-0 up and we in games this year have gone 1-2-0 down, we almost played not only against the other team, but against ourselves.
Yeah, I get you, mate. I get you.
Yeah.
Rhian's got a wicked question for you now.
Oh, no.
I'll say it because it's gone off the screen, so you won't know what I'm talking about. But
No, I know what you're talking about. I'm actually interested in this.
Yeah?
Because
So, obviously, minus you, who do you think would be the best keeper at Southam?
I know you want me to say you.
No, I don't.
I think there are some expectations.
I think being in goal suits me because I feel about 3/4 of it.
Sit the fat kid in goal. We'd have a list longer than our arm if we set the fat kids in goal.
You've got no friends in the change rooms, all right?
I know. I was gonna
Which
say.
we won't be using. Thank you, David.
Who do I think would be good in goal? Weirdly, I think Ricky Barbie would be good in goal.
Why? Justify.
I don't know. Just look at him and just think, you've got it. Some people have it, some people
I bet
don't.
he's got that brain cell missing like you. He's a bit of a scruff.
I tell you, who wouldn't be good in goal would be Chiddy.
Just get bored, wouldn't he? He'd try and dribble for the team. But tell you what, he likes wearing gloves, so maybe it is.
He does
maybe
like wearing
right
gloves, actually. I've got about 5 pairs of his confiscated gloves down there because it's pathetic.
He's wears work gloves in the middle of August.
If we still had Pencil would have been up there.
Yeah, what a bloke. Andy Handley, what a guy.
Yeah, Andy Handley, I think. Most of the players that are left would have been good in goal. Coombsy, because he's just lanky.
Yeah.
I think, to be honest, Bran, probably would be you.
There it is.
I've seen you do some things in training which I would be proud of. Yeah.
Well, yeah, nice. Thank you, mate.
That paid me to answer that.
Yeah. We're going to do some random questions. They are going to be very random this week because I'm looking at a list and we're just kind of going through them.
We Googled random questions to ask goalkeepers from Southam.
There you go. Big list, actually, 101. All right, so first thing that comes to mind, basically. You can visit one planet. What would it be?
Jupiter.
Why is that?
It's the biggest one.
Okay.
And it's the first one that came to my head, to be honest.
Which is what this round's about. You keep doing that. You feed from the front of that brain. Okay, so what is your... what if you could have any superpower, what would you have?
I'd like to be able to fly. I know that's really basic.
So basic.
I'd just like to fly.
I mean, what other one is there? Like, what else are we saying?
Go invisible.
I guess you could be invisible, but...
I just think that's a bit creepy, to be honest.
Yeah.
I don't know what your intentions are, being invisible. Maybe we should leave that one there, but...
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I just think it's a bit creepy.
Yeah, super strength maybe, which would
super
be
strength
good as an athlete. But I like the flying one. I think that's what I would choose.
Yeah, nice.
Oh,
I didn't know you saved them
who's that
top end
bloke
shots.
on Fantastic Four, the old stretchy bloke? That'd be quite useful playing football.
Okay. Oh, that's true.
You could be Elastigirl off The Incredibles.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. When you were a kid, what did you say you wanted to be when you grew up?
Goalkeeper for Southam.
Not a recruiter. I wanted to be a footballer, and then I wanted to go and be an investment banker.
Oh, okay.
You've definitely got the brains for that.
Yeah,
Maybe that could be a pipe dream that you can keep hold of and pursue.
Yeah, I might do. What do
you think? What is the first movie that made you laugh out loud?
Step Brothers.
Great film.
Step Brothers. Yeah.
This is such a big movie in this country. I feel everybody.
It's definitely
talks about this.
Anything those two do turns to gold. Talladega Nights is probably my favourite film now, and it's the same two blokes. Yeah.
They're good. They are good.
Step Brothers, definitely.
What song do you most associate with your childhood? That's a hard one, isn't it?
It's a great question, though.
Drops of Jupiter by Train.
Oh, I love
sing
that
it for
song.
us. I've never
I
heard
love
it.
that song.
Really? You volunteered to sing it along?
Go on.
What?
No.
No, that's a great song.
Yeah, it was the first album I ever bought was Train. I don't really listen to that sort of music anymore, but I just remember listening to that song on repeat and everyone being like, what are you listening to?
I like it.
Great song.
And so last but not least, what living celebrity do you most identify with?
There's probably two answers to that, isn't there? I would like to think like Liam Gallagher.
Great guy.
I think if I'm honest, I'm probably like that bloke who was on Come Dine With Me. Grayson Decorum.
Oh yeah.
Probably that bloke. If you can count him
his
as
class.
Maybe Ben Foster actually, because I've started getting into my cycling.
The cycling GK.
Yeah, massively into my cycling at the moment. So I'd say Ben Foster. That's happening.
And you followed in his footsteps a little bit. You played at Warwick.
Yeah.
As did
obviously.
he.
I think our careers probably took slightly different paths. But
All right, one more question. And I'm actually going to ask you the same question, Brandon, mostly because I forgot to ask you last week. But we're going to build a club playlist. We're going to put it on Spotify so everybody can have access to it, but maybe play it, after matches and things like that. You get to add one song to this playlist, and nobody else in the team can complain about it, can say anything about it. It's your one song on the playlist. What are you adding?
It's a dangerous question for me. I think Brandon alluded to it in his podcast last week. I do not listen to any of the music that anyone really listens to. I think the best football song for me to add would be Club Foot by Kasabian.
Tune. It is a tune. It gets you ready for football, that does.
Yeah, I think it's a happy medium between the music that I listen to and football
Funnily
music.
though, I'm going to join you on kind of like the semi-indie bands for a football song, and mine is Not 19 Forever by the Cortinas. I don't think I've ever sung a song that loud with that much enthusiasm, and it makes me want to love you.
Yeah, it's a great song. It's a proper song. Just got some tickets to see them again today, actually. So it's really weird you said that.
Are they here in Park again?
No, festival down south. So, by the way, that means I need to text Rich and tell him I'm missing a game.
Well, he knows now.
Well, you heard it here first. There's an exclusive.
Yeah. Awesome. Those are two great additions. Lastly, we're going to kind of finish up here because I know we're running out of time, but just want to give the opportunity to kind of deliver a message to the supporters. I know that everybody's looking forward to getting back to Bobby Hancock's Park and just being able to watch you guys. What do you have to say to everybody in preparation for all of that?
Up the Saints. No, I think probably thank you for everyone that's been coming out in the last sort of couple of months prior to lockdown, because we did notice an increased attendance, especially in midweek games. And obviously now that the club is more transparent and some of the wrong people aren't involved with it anymore, we want to get the town properly behind us. I hope you don't really mind me saying that.
No, crack on, mate.
But yeah, I think the players are overwhelmingly really want the town behind them. So there's a lot of people in the town. Just come watch your local team.
And the young lad football hooligans, keep coming. Get some flags. Get some beer down you. Yeah. The Black Dog lads need to keep coming along and giving us some grief. Yeah, because we are all for it.
Yeah, I do love them.
Well, thank you so much, Coxy. I really appreciate you coming on and speaking with us. It's been so nice to hear about you and kind of how you got into all this and what we can expect from you this year and next year to come as well. So we really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thanks, mate. See you tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks so much for having me. It's actually a bit of a different experience, but yeah, really enjoyed it. So thank you for having me.
It's good, mate.
Yeah, appreciate it. And thank you to everybody else for listening to our podcast. Don't forget, for episodes, announcements, videos, content, all of that, follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on YouTube.
And TikTok,
Spotify, everywhere that you could have access to some kind of social media, we're there. So jump on there and find all of the Southam content that you can. Learn about Southam and come to all the matches as well. And if you are listening to us on anything like YouTube or Apple Podcasts or anything like that, leave us a review, leave us a comment. We'd love to hear kind of what you guys want to hear next. And also those reviews help us to kind of get in touch with new listeners and so people know what we're about.
And we're going to be putting some things on Instagram story. We want to hear what you want to hear. So if there's questions you want asked and you want certain players being called out, please reply to our Instagram stories and we'll do our best to feed you with the information that you want.
Absolutely. All right, until next time, thank you guys for listening and we will see you then. Bye.
Cheers, guys.